Welcome back to Secrets Exposed. It's always a pleasure to have you with us. You're the reason these stories worth sharing. Tell us where you're watching from, city or country. We're amazed by how far these tales reach. To get daily new and amazing stories for you, please subscribe our channel and press bell icon. All right, let's begin.
The house was too quiet. Ethan Cole dropped his keys on the kitchen counter and waited for the usual sound of footsteps running down the hallway, his daughter's laughter echoing behind them. But tonight, nothing. Only the faint hum of the refrigerator and the soft buzz of a flickering light. The silence wrapped around him like a question he didn't want to answer. He loosened his tie, exhaled, and walked toward the living room. The clock on the wall ticked louder than usual. His wife, Marissa, wasn't on the couch. Her coffee mug sat half-finished, the liquid cold, a lipstick mark pressed against the rim. Ethan frowned. Marissa, his voice felt too loud for the stillness. Then thud. He stopped. The sound came from below, dull and uneven. He waited, every muscle in his body tightening. Another thud, then silence again. Probably the pipes, he thought. Old house, old problems. But something about the rhythm, the pause between each strike, didn't sound mechanical. It sounded alive. He took the flashlight from the drawer, the same one he used during storms when the power went out. "Lila," he called, forcing a small laugh into his tone, as if saying her name could make the air less heavy. No answer. The next thud was louder, followed by a scraping sound, like nails against metal. The basement door stood slightly open, a thin strip of darkness peering through. A draft slipped out, carrying with it a faint, icy breath. Ethan swallowed hard. Marissa, still no reply. He reached for the door handle. It was cold, colder than it should have been. The hinges groaned as he pulled it open. The air hit him first. Sharp, freezing, unnatural. He stepped down the creaking stairs, flashlight beam trembling across the concrete floor. The banging stopped. Now, there was only the echo of his breathing and the distant hum of the old freezer in the corner. The beam landed on it. A large white chest freezer, taped shut around the edges with gray duct tape. Frost lined the seal, dripping down in small rivulets that froze midstream. Ethan frowned. He didn't remember taping it. Why would anyone? Then came a weak, muffled thud from inside, followed by a faint, broken gasp. The flashlight slipped from his hand and rolled across the floor. He lunged forward, ripping at the tape with trembling fingers. The adhesive tore skin from his knuckles, but he didn't care. "Oh God, please," the lid creaked open. A burst of icy air clawed at his face, numbing his lips. Inside was movement. A pale arm. Blue lips. His daughter. Lila. Her eyes fluttered, barely open. Her skin was white as snow, her breath shallow and ragged. Frost clung to her hair like crystals. Ethan's mind went blank. Only instinct remained. He pulled her out, wrapping her in his jacket, pressing her frozen fingers to his chest. "Stay with me, sweetheart. Please stay with me." Her lips trembled. She tried to speak. "Hey," she whispered, voice weak and hoarse. "He put me here." Ethan froze, unable to breathe. Who? Who did this to you?" But her eyes rolled back, and she went still in his arms. For a moment, time didn't exist, just the sound of his heartbeat and the cold humming of the freezer that had almost taken his daughter's life. Then, from somewhere upstairs, a door creaked open. Footsteps echoed faintly across the floorboards. Ethan looked up toward the sound. Marissa, his voice cracked, but whoever, or whatever, was moving above him didn't answer. He held his daughter tighter, feeling the chill of her skin seep through his clothes. The air smelled faintly of metal and frost. He looked once more at the freezer, its empty interior glowing under the flashlight beam. A single tuft of her hair clung to the rim, frozen stiff. And as the footsteps faded, Ethan knew two things for certain. Someone had done this deliberately, and that someone might still be in his house. Ethan's fingers shook as he dialed 911, his breath fogging in the freezing air of the basement. "My daughter. She's alive, but she's freezing. Please hurry." His voice cracked as he looked down at Lila, limp in his arms. The dispatcher's words blurred into static, something about keeping her warm, not letting her fall asleep. He barely heard it. He sprinted up the stairs, his footsteps thundering through the house. Each step felt heavier than the last. The living room lights flickered as he laid Lila on the couch and wrapped her in a blanket. Her eyelids fluttered, lips whispering fragments of words he couldn't understand. "Shh, you're safe now," he muttered, voice trembling. "You're safe." Marissa appeared at the top of the stairs, wearing her robe, hair messy as if she'd just woken up. "Ethan? What's going on?" He looked up at her, eyes wild. "It's Lila. I found her in the basement, in the freezer." For a moment, she didn't react, just stood there, frozen, like she didn't understand the words. Then her face drained of color. "What are you talking about? Don't act like you didn't hear anything," he snapped, motioning toward the basement door. "She was locked in there. She could have died." Marissa stepped closer, her expression shifting from disbelief to panic. "That's not possible," the police said. She stopped herself. Ethan caught it, the hesitation, the crack in her voice. "What did the police say?" he demanded. Her eyes darted toward the window. "They said she was probably taken, that there was no sign of her. But she was here, Marissa, the whole time." His voice rose, anger mixing with heartbreak. "Who had access to our house? Who could have done this?" Before she could answer, sirens echoed outside. Blue and red lights washed across the walls. Paramedics burst through the door, their calm efficiency slicing through the chaos. They checked Lila's pulse, wrapped her in thermal sheets, and carried her to the ambulance. Ethan followed until a medic stopped him at the door. "We'll do everything we can, sir. She's breathing, but she's hypothermic. She needs a hospital now." He watched the doors close, his heart hammering in his chest. The sound of the siren grew distant, swallowed by the cold night. Marissa stood behind him, arms crossed, trembling, not from the chill but from something deeper. Detective Halloran arrived minutes later, coat unbuttoned, eyes sharp. "Mr. Cole, we'll need to secure the property," he said. "Tell me exactly what happened." Ethan repeated the story, each word sounding more surreal as he spoke it aloud. Halloran's expression remained neutral, but his pen stopped mid-note when Ethan mentioned the freezer being taped shut. "That's deliberate," the detective said. "Not something a kid could do herself." He glanced at Marissa. "Mrs. Cole, was anyone else in the house tonight?" She shook her head too quickly. "No one. Just us." Ethan's jaw tightened. "She was gone for 2 days. You think she taped herself inside a freezer?" Halloran raised a hand. "Let's not jump to conclusions. We'll pull the security footage. Check for any entry during the last 48 hours. Ethan nodded, barely breathing. "Do it. I want to see everything." After they left, the house felt emptier than ever. The basement door remained slightly ajar, a dark mouth leading down to what he'd found. Ethan sat on the bottom step for a long time, staring into the shadows. He remembered Lila's frozen whisper. "He put me here." Her voice echoed in his head like a curse. Marissa walked down quietly, her voice low. "Ethan, maybe you should rest." He turned toward her slowly, eyes hollow. "Did you hear what she said?" She hesitated. She was confused. She doesn't know what happened. "Or maybe she does," he said quietly. "Maybe she knows exactly who it was." Marissa's lips trembled. She looked away, pretending to tidy the mess near the door. "Please, Ethan, don't start accusing people before you know." He stood, the beam of the flashlight still trembling in his hand. "I'm not accusing. I'm remembering." He glanced toward the camera in the corner of the ceiling, the one Ryan had installed months ago as a gift. At the time, Ethan thought it was brotherly concern, a gesture of care. Now, it felt like an eye staring back at him. The cold air from the basement brushed against his neck again, faint but chilling. Somewhere deep inside, Ethan already knew this wasn't just about Lila's disappearance. It was about betrayal. He turned off the light and whispered to himself, "Whatever did this, it's closer than I thought." The hospital lights were blinding, the kind that made everything look too clean, too artificial to be real. Ethan sat on the hard plastic chair outside the emergency room, elbows on his knees, hands clasped so tight his knuckles turned white. The rhythmic beeping of machines behind the glass wall felt like a fragile heartbeat, keeping his world from collapsing. Through the window, he saw Lila, pale, wrapped in layers of blankets, her small chest rising and falling in slow, shallow breaths. Tubes connected her to machines that whispered and hummed. Each sound was a reminder that she was still alive. Barely. Detective Halloran stood beside him, notebook in hand. "She's stable for now," the detective said quietly. "Doctors say hypothermia, early frostbite, dehydration. But she's a fighter." Ethan nodded without looking up. "You said you were getting the security footage?" Halloran exhaled. "My team's pulling it from your house right now. You mentioned your brother installed those cameras." Ethan's stomach twisted. "Yeah, he said it was for protection after that break-in a few months ago." "Convenient timing," Halloran murmured, jotting something down. "Do you trust him?" Ethan hesitated. That question shouldn't have been hard, but lately, everything about Ryan had started feeling off. "He's family," Ethan finally said, though the words felt hollow. Hours later, after the doctors assured him Lila would rest, Ethan drove back home. The house felt like a crime scene, cold, empty, haunted by what had been hiding beneath it. 2 officers stood near the basement door, cataloging evidence. Halloran was in the living room, connecting a laptop to the main security system. "Mr. Cole," he said, motioning him over, "we've got footage from last night. Want to see it?" Ethan's throat went dry. "Yes." The first clips were normal, motion triggers from the front yard, a passing car, the neighbor's cat. Then the timestamp jumped, 2:36 a.m. The camera, facing the side door, came alive. Someone entered the frame, a figure in a dark hoodie, gloves on, moving like he knew exactly where to go. No hesitation. He stepped through the door, and the camera caught a glimpse of his face as he looked up at it for a fraction of a second. Ethan's heart stopped. It was Ryan. He stumbled back, nearly knocking over a chair. "No, that can't be." Halloran paused the video, zoomed in. "You're saying that's your brother?" Ethan stared at the screen, shaking his head as if denial could erase what he saw. I don't understand. Why would he?" The detective pressed play again. Ryan moved through the hallway, out of camera range, then reappeared near the basement door. He carried something small and pale, something wrapped in a blanket. "Lila." Ethan gripped the edge of the table, so hard it groaned. "He took her. He brought her here." On screen, Ryan descended the stairs. Minutes later, he came back alone, hands shaking, face drenched in sweat. He looked toward the camera one last time before leaving, eyes wild, like a man consumed by something dark and unrecognizable. Halloran's voice broke through the silence. "We'll issue a warrant. He can't explain this away." Ethan didn't answer. His thoughts weren't on justice. They were on the memory of Ryan's grin, the one he used to trust, the one that suddenly looked sinister in his mind. He walked to the window, staring at the night sky. Every breath felt heavier, colder. Behind him, the video replayed in a loop, that same moment when Ryan looked at the camera. Each time Ethan saw it, the betrayal sank deeper, carving new wounds inside him. When Marissa walked in, her face pale, she froze at the sight of the screen. "What is this?" she whispered. Ethan turned to her slowly. "You tell me." She shook her head. No, he wouldn't. Don't you dare defend him." Ethan's voice cracked, the fury raw in his throat. "He took our daughter. He left her there to die." Marissa covered her mouth, tears welling up. "Ethan, I swear I didn't know." But the way her voice trembled, too carefully, too rehearsed, made his stomach turn. Halloran looked between them, uncomfortable. "We'll find him," he said firmly. "Stay available, both of you. If he contacts you, let us know immediately." As the detective left, Ethan sank onto the couch, the echo of Ryan's footsteps from the footage still pounding in his ears. Marissa reached for his hand, but he pulled away. He couldn't look at her. Not yet. Not until he understood why Ryan had keys to their home. Why his wife looked more frightened than surprised. In that silence, he realized something far worse than betrayal. This wasn't over. Ryan hadn't just taken Lila. He had plans. And Ethan swore, right there under the flickering light, that he'd uncover every one of them, even if it meant burning down everything they once called family. The hospital room was quiet except for the soft hum of the heart monitor. Its slow, steady beeps echoed like a pulse in the dark. Lila lay motionless under a thin blanket, her skin pale and fragile, as if she'd been carved from ice. Ethan sat beside her, elbows on his knees, his eyes burning from sleepless hours. Every time he closed them, he saw Ryan's face from the footage, smirking up at the camera, carrying his daughter like a piece of furniture. Marissa sat in the corner, wrapped in her coat, though the room was warm. Her hands twisted the edge of her sleeve, her gaze fixed on the floor. "They'll find him," she whispered, barely audible. Ethan didn't answer. The words sounded hollow, meaningless. Justice wouldn't erase what had been done. Justice wouldn't warm Lila's frozen skin. When a nurse came in to check Lila's vitals, she gave Ethan a small, knowing smile. "You should rest, sir." He shook his head. "I'm not leaving her again." Minutes later, the nurse left and silence filled the room once more. Then, Lila's fingers twitched. Ethan's head snapped up. "Lila." Her lips moved slightly, her voice barely more than a breath. "Dad." He leaned closer, his heart racing. "I'm here, sweetheart. You're safe now." Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused at first, then full of confusion and fear. Tears welled up as she gripped his hand weakly. "It was dark," she murmured. "Cold. I know," Ethan said softly, brushing hair from her forehead. "It's over. You're with me now." Her lips trembled. "You put me there." Ethan froze. "Who, Lila? Who put you there?" She turned her head slowly toward the window, her voice shaking. "Uncle Ryan." For a second, the world stopped moving. Even the monitor seemed to fall silent in that breath. Ethan's chest tightened as the words sank in, cutting through the fog like a blade. He waited for her to say more, but her eyes closed again, her body slipping back into exhausted sleep. Marissa's gasp broke the stillness. "Ethan, she doesn't know what she's saying. She's traumatized." He turned toward her slowly, his voice low, dangerous. Don't you dare tell me she's wrong." Marissa stood up, her eyes wide with panic. "You saw that footage. Maybe it wasn't him. Maybe someone. I saw his face." Ethan interrupted, his tone sharp enough to cut glass. "He walked into our home. He taped that freezer shut. You think I don't recognize my own brother?" She flinched but said nothing. Ethan looked back at Lila, his voice softening. She remembered what he did. Even after everything, she remembered. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The air between them thickened with unspoken guilt. Then Ethan turned toward the window, his reflection staring back at him. Tired, angry, hollow. "He's not getting away with this," he said quietly. "Not again." Later that night, when Marissa stepped out to talk to the doctor, Ethan pulled out his phone. He scrolled through old messages with Ryan. Memes, jokes, photos from holidays. He stopped at one from 6 months ago. "You're lucky, man. You've got everything I ever wanted." At the time, Ethan had laughed it off. Now, the words felt poisonous. A notification blinked on his screen. Incoming call. Ryan. Ethan's blood ran cold. He hesitated for a second, then answered. "Where are you?" he growled. A pause, then Ryan's calm, almost cheerful voice. "Ethan, good to hear your voice. You must be furious. Don't play games with me. I saw the footage. You were in my house." Ryan chuckled, the sound low and deliberate. "Footage can be faked, little brother. You of all people should know that." Ethan's grip tightened on the phone. "Lila said your name." "Kids say things when they're scared," Ryan replied smoothly. "Maybe you should ask yourself why she's scared of you." The line went dead. Ethan stared at the phone, his pulse hammering in his ears. He knew that voice. The calmness. The control. It was the same tone Ryan used when he wanted to make him feel small, helpless. Marissa returned, her face pale. "Who was that?" He looked up slowly. "Ryan. He's watching us." Her eyes darted toward the window, then the hallway, fear flickering across her face. Ethan stood, sliding his phone into his pocket. "He's not just running," he said quietly. "He's playing." He walked toward the door, his voice steady but cold. "And I'm done playing back." Outside, the wind howled against the hospital windows. Somewhere out there, Ryan was listening, waiting, enjoying every second. But Ethan wasn't the same man anymore. The fear was gone, replaced by something sharper, something that wanted revenge. The next morning crept in through the thin hospital curtains, gray and heavy. The sky outside looked like frozen steel, matching the weight in Ethan's chest. He hadn't slept. He sat by Lila's bed, staring at the faint rise and fall of her chest. Every small breath felt like a fragile thread keeping him alive too. Marissa had dozed off in the corner chair, arms crossed, head tilted, a storm of guilt shadowing her face. Ethan hadn't spoken to her since the call. Every time he looked at her, all he could see was hesitation. The moment last night when she defended Ryan, when she'd looked more afraid of the truth than the man who caused it. The door creaked open softly. Detective Halloran entered, coffee in hand. His coat looked like it had spent the night in his car. "Morning," he said, voice low. "She's stable. That's good news." Ethan didn't look up. "You find him yet?" Halloran took a sip, sighed. "We've issued the warrant. His car's missing, his phone's off. We found his apartment trashed, like he packed in a hurry. No signs of struggle, though." Ethan clenched his jaw. "He's not running. He's hiding. There's a difference." Halloran studied him quietly for a moment. "You know him better than I do. What would make him do this?" Ethan's mind flashed through memories, birthday dinners, camping trips, Ryan's constant shadow beside him. Ryan had always been the charming one, the one who could talk his way through anything. But behind that charm had been envy, buried deep and poisonous. Jealousy. Ethan muttered. "He wanted what I had. My house. My family." Halloran raised an eyebrow. "Your wife." Ethan's silence was all the answer he needed. Halloran nodded slowly. "We'll look into it." He turned to leave, then hesitated. "Be careful, Mr. Cole. People like your brother, they don't stop until they're finished." After he left, Ethan leaned back, his hand resting on Lila's blanket. His mind wouldn't stop replaying Ryan's voice from the call. "Maybe you should ask yourself why she's scared of you." The words crawled under his skin, cold and deliberate. When Marissa stirred awake, her voice was soft. "Did you sleep?" Ethan shook his head. She rubbed her eyes, watching him carefully. "Ethan, I know what you're thinking, but if you do something stupid..." He looked at her sharply. "Something stupid?" "He locked our daughter in a freezer, Marissa. I'm past stupid." She swallowed hard, her eyes shining. "You don't understand him. He's..." She stopped herself. Ethan's gaze darkened. "He's what? Say it." Her lips trembled. "He's dangerous. Already know that." "No." She shook her head, voice cracking. "You don't. He used to call me. A lot. Even before Lila went missing." Ethan froze. "Call you?" She nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks. At first it was small talk. Then he started saying things about you. That you didn't deserve what you had. That you'd ruin Lila's life. He said I'd be safer if I just left. Ethan stood up slowly, disbelief and rage twisting in his chest. "You never told me this?" "I thought he'd stop," she whispered. "I didn't want to make things worse between you two." He turned away, his hands gripping the windowsill so hard his fingers went numb. Outside, the parking lot shimmered with frost. "He wanted to destroy us," Ethan said quietly. Piece by piece. A soft knock interrupted them. A nurse peeked in. "She's awake." Ethan rushed to Lila's side. Her eyes were open this time, red, tired but aware. She looked at him, then at Marissa, confusion flickering across her face. "Hey, sweetheart," Ethan said gently. "You're safe. The bad man can't hurt you anymore." Her small hand reached for his wrist. "Is he gone?" Ethan hesitated. "We're making sure of it." Her eyes filled with tears. "He said you wouldn't find me." Ethan's throat tightened. "Don't think about that, okay? Just rest." But her words carved into him, sharp and deep. "He said you wouldn't find me." Later, after she drifted back to sleep, Ethan stepped into the hallway. His reflection in the glass looked unfamiliar, harder, colder. He pulled out his phone and scrolled through his contacts until he found the one he'd been avoiding. Ryan Cole. He typed a message. "You want to play games? I'm done hiding. You come near my family again, and I'll end this myself." He didn't expect a reply, but seconds later, his screen lit up. "You already did, little brother. You just don't remember how." Ethan's breath caught. He stared at the message, pulse hammering in his ears. What did that mean? Was Ryan lying? Or did he know something Ethan didn't? Behind him, Marissa called softly. "Who are you texting?" He locked the screen, pocketed the phone. No one, he lied. As he walked back into the room, the monitor beeped steadily. But for Ethan, every sound now carried another message, one that whispered from the shadows. Ryan wasn't done. He was still out there, watching, waiting. And somewhere deep inside, Ethan began to realize Ryan's game had only just begun. By the time Ethan and Marissa returned home that evening, the winter sun had already drowned behind the horizon. The house stood quiet under the dull streetlight, its windows dark and hollow. For the first time since Lila's rescue, Ethan hesitated before unlocking the door. The place that once felt safe now breathed like a living thing, cold, secretive, watching. The door groaned open. The faint smell of disinfectant from the police sweep still lingered, mixing with something else, damp air, rust, and the faint scent of frost that seemed to seep from the basement below. Marissa clutched her coat tighter. Do we really have to be here tonight? Ethan ignored her question. I want to see the footage again. Her voice trembled. The police already have it. I don't care. I need to see it for myself. He switched on the lights. The living room flickered to life. Half the bulbs buzzed weakly, shadows crawling across the walls. The house looked like it had been abandoned for years. Ethan stepped into the study where Halloran's team had left the laptop. The faint blue glow of the paused footage still reflected on the screen. Ryan's frozen face stared back at him. The faint smirk twisted into something demonic. Marissa stood by the doorway. Ethan, please don't. Hit play. Ryan moved through the hallway. His body language relaxed, confident. He walked like he owned the place. The timestamp blinked. 2:37 a.m. Ethan's jaw tightened. Then Ryan disappeared out of frame, and for a few seconds, the camera faced the dark basement door. Ethan scrubbed forward. Suddenly, the door opened again, and this time there was someone else. It was Marissa. She stepped into the hallway wearing her robe, barefoot, glancing nervously over her shoulder. She stopped in front of the basement, hesitated, then turned off the hallway light. Ethan froze. What is this? Marissa paled. I don't remember that. He turned to her, voice sharp. You were awake. You saw him. I didn't, she cried, stepping back. I swear I didn't see him that night. Then what were you doing there? Ethan's tone rose, raw and shaking. Why did you turn off the lights? Why were you even near the basement? Tears filled her eyes. I heard something. I thought it was you. I went to check. Ethan stared at her for a long, heavy moment. The air between them grew unbearable. He replayed the clip, Ryan walking in, then minutes later, Marissa standing in the same spot, switching off the light. Their paths had crossed. There was no mistaking it. Don't lie to me, he said quietly. You knew he was here. Marissa pressed a hand over her mouth. Ethan, I was scared. He said if I told you anything, he'd hurt Lila. The room tilted. Ethan took a step forward, fury and disbelief colliding inside him. He contacted you? She nodded, trembling. He called that night. He told me Lila was safe. That he was just teaching you a lesson. I didn't know he meant. Her voice broke. I didn't know he'd do that. Ethan's breath came out in shallow bursts. His mind spun, connecting every missing piece. Ryan's obsession, Marissa's silence, the cameras he installed. It had never been protection. It was surveillance of them. You helped him, Ethan said, his tone hollow. You didn't lock the door. You didn't call for help. You. Stop, she cried. You think I wanted this? He said he'd kill her if I didn't listen. Ethan's voice dropped, icy and precise. And you listened. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Only the faint whir of the laptop fan filled the air. On screen, the footage looped endlessly. Ryan walking in, Marissa switching off the light, the silence that followed. Finally, Ethan spoke, his words low but final. You're leaving tonight. Go stay with your sister. I don't want you here when I find him. Marissa's lips quivered. What are you going to do? He didn't answer. His eyes were locked on the screen, on the man who destroyed everything. Whatever it takes. When she finally left, the door shut with a soft click. The house fell into silence again, broken only by the faint creaks of the old wooden floor. Ethan stood in the center of the room, staring at the camera feed. He could almost feel Ryan's presence, taunting him, daring him to come closer. He descended the basement stairs one last time, flashlight beam trembling across the cold concrete. The freezer stood there, lid open, the inside still crusted with frost. He touched the edge with his bare hand, the cold biting into his skin. "This ends where it started," he whispered. Upstairs, the laptop screen flickered. The live camera feed switched on automatically. A new timestamp appeared, 11:42 p.m. In the corner of the screen, a small red light blinked. Recording. Ryan was watching again. The house was silent except for the low hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of the floorboards shifting under the cold. Ethan sat in the kitchen, staring at the small red light glowing on the security monitor. The system was live again, but he hadn't turned it on. Somewhere out there, Ryan was watching, just as he had been before. The realization made Ethan's skin crawl. He closed the laptop, unplugged the feed, and walked to the window. Outside, the snow was falling in thin, whispering sheets, soft enough to hide footsteps. Every shadow under the street lamp looked like movement. Every sound was suspect. His phone buzzed on the counter. Unknown number. He hesitated, then answered. "Hello." A pause. Then Ryan's voice came through, smooth, calm, too familiar. "You shouldn't be alone in that house, little brother. Bad things happen there." Ethan's heart thudded. "You think this is a game? You almost killed her." Ryan laughed softly. "Almost. You should be thanking me. I gave you a chance to be the hero again. Lila will never forget how Daddy saved her. You get to play the good guy, just like always." Ethan's grip on the phone tightened. "You're sick. Maybe. Or maybe I just got tired of living in your shadow. You've always had everything. The family, the house, the love. You didn't even earn it. You stumbled into it, and I watched from the sidelines. You watched because you were jealous." Ethan snapped. "You wanted what wasn't yours." "Oh, come on." Ryan's voice lowered, almost intimate. "You really think Marissa never called me first? You think those nights she said she was visiting her sister, she was telling the truth?" Ethan froze. The phone nearly slipped from his hand. "You're lying." Ryan chuckled. "She told me things about you. About how you yell when you're angry. About how she felt invisible next to you. You made it easy, brother. I didn't even have to twist the knife. She handed it to me herself." Ethan's stomach turned. The world around him blurred for a moment. "You're not human," he whispered. "Neither are you anymore," Ryan said softly. "You just don't see it yet." The line went dead. Ethan stood there, trembling, rage mixing with something darker, fear. Not of Ryan, but of how much of what he said might be true. Marissa's hesitation, her silence, her eyes full of guilt. Had she? No. He shook the thought away, but it clung to him like smoke. He turned the lights off and walked to the basement, every step heavy, deliberate. The freezer sat in the corner like a white tomb, silent but suffocating. He knelt beside it and ran a hand along the edge. Frost gathered instantly on his skin, burning cold. His reflection in the metal rim looked distorted, half in shadow, half lit by the flashlight. "You want to play games, Ryan?" he whispered. "Then come home." He turned to the camera mounted above the stairs. The lens stared back, small and lifeless. Ethan leaned close. "You hear me? You wanted my attention. Now you have it." He unplugged the power cord from the camera and crushed it beneath his boot. The light blinked out. Hours passed. The house remained still. Ethan sat in the living room, shotgun resting on his knees, waiting. Every few minutes, he glanced toward the window. Nothing. No headlights. No movement. Just snow. Then, a faint vibration from the phone on the table. Another message. "Ryan, you'll never see me coming." Attached was a photo, grainy, dark, but clear enough. It was taken from outside, through the window. The frame showed Ethan sitting exactly as he was now, head slightly turned, eyes toward the door. He jumped to his feet, ran to the window, and yanked the curtains open. The yard was empty, only the snow falling, unbroken. His breath fogged against the glass. "Where are you? You coward," he shouted into the cold. The phone buzzed again. "Ryan, behind you." Ethan spun around, heart hammering, but there was no one. Just the echo of his own ragged breathing. He stood frozen in the middle of the room, scanning the shadows. Nothing. Slowly, he walked toward the hallway, checking every corner, every doorway. The air felt charged, heavy like someone was still there. In the distance, the basement door creaked open by itself. A faint draft slipped out, carrying a whisper of cold air. Ethan lifted the shotgun, his pulse pounding. Step by step, he descended the stairs again. The beam of his flashlight wavered over the concrete. The freezer stood open this time, its lid wide like a grin. Inside, something glinted, a small metal object. He reached for it carefully. It was a phone, his old spare. But when he picked it up, the screen lit up with a single message. "Ryan, welcome home, Ethan." The lights above him flickered. The camera in the corner, one he thought he had destroyed, blinked red again. Ryan was inside. Ethan's pulse thundered in his ears. The red light on the basement camera glowed steadily, casting an eerie hue over the concrete floor. He turned slowly, shotgun raised, breath shallow. Every corner looked alive in the flickering light. "Ryan," he shouted, voice echoing against the walls. "Come out." Nothing. The silence pressed down on him until it felt like the air itself was listening. Then came the faintest sound, a creak from above. The floorboards groaned. Someone was moving upstairs. Ethan's heart kicked. He turned off the flashlight, letting darkness swallow him. The faint hum of the freezer filled the space, like the house was breathing again. Step by careful step, he ascended, keeping the shotgun close to his chest. At the top of the stairs, the living room was dark except for the pale wash of moonlight leaking through the curtains. The front door was closed, but the faint, rhythmic tapping continued, soft, deliberate, coming from the hallway. He followed the sound. His bare feet brushed against the cold hardwood as he turned the corner and froze. On the wall opposite the kitchen, someone had written in black marker, "You never protected her." Ethan's stomach twisted. The handwriting was familiar, jagged, uneven, Ryan's. Beneath it, taped to the wall, was a single photo, a picture of Lila in the hospital bed, taken hours ago. "Ow!" Ethan whispered. The house phone rang. The shrill tone pierced the silence, making him flinch. He stared at it, the old landline mounted beside the fridge. It rang again. Slowly, he lifted the receiver to his ear. "Hello." A quiet chuckle answered him. "Nice to see you found my little message. Where are you?" Ethan hissed. "You think this is about where I am?" Ryan's voice was steady, eerily calm. "It's about where you've been. Do you even remember that night, Ethan? Before Lila disappeared? What are you talking about?" "You were drunk," Ryan continued. "You said things you don't want anyone to hear. You scared her, Ethan. You scare them both." "Lies. Am I lying?" Ryan's voice dropped to a whisper. "Ask Marissa why she begged me to come over that night. Ask her what she told me about you." Ethan gritted his teeth. "You're twisting everything. You hurt her. You." Ryan interrupted, laughing softly. "Oh, I didn't hurt anyone, brother. I just opened a door you closed years ago." The line clicked dead. Ethan slammed the receiver down, rage burning through him. He turned and caught his reflection in the dark window. The eyes staring back didn't look like his anymore. He stormed into the bedroom and yanked open the closet. The smell of Marissa's perfume lingered faintly. He pulled out the box she kept on the top shelf, the one she always told him not to touch. Inside were photos, letters, and a small USB stick. He plugged it into the laptop, his hands shaking. Folders appeared, videos, messages, Ryan. He clicked one at random. The screen filled with grainy footage. Marissa sitting on the couch, eyes swollen from crying. Ryan's voice was behind the camera. "He doesn't see you, does he?" "No," Marissa said quietly. "He just works, yells, then disappears again." "You deserve better," Ryan said. "Someone who actually listens." She didn't respond, but her silence said enough. Ethan's throat tightened. Each clip was worse than the last. Secret meetings, whispered words, Ryan's hand brushing against hers. None of it violent. All of it betrayal. He closed the laptop hard, the screen cracking slightly under the pressure. His chest heaved. For a moment, the anger shifted into something hollow. Was this what Ryan wanted? To destroy every memory Ethan had built? Then he heard it. A knock at the front door. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. Ethan froze. The air went still again. He picked up the shotgun and moved toward the door, every nerve on fire. Through the peephole, he saw nothing but darkness. Then, Another knock, louder this time. He swung the door open. No one stood there. Only the wind, carrying flakes of snow across the porch. But at his feet, there was a box, plain, small, wrapped in brown paper. He bent down, lifted it carefully, and carried it inside. At the table, he unwrapped it. Inside was a cell phone, his daughter's old phone, the one that had gone missing the night she disappeared. The screen lit up on its own, displaying a single video file labeled Watch ME. He pressed play. The footage showed the basement, the freezer, the tape, the faint figure of Ryan moving around. But then another shape entered the frame. Ethan's breath hitched. It was him. He watched, frozen, as the man who looked exactly like him helped Ryan move the freezer, seal it shut, then disappear off screen. The video ended. Ethan's entire body went numb. "No," he whispered. "That's not me." From the shadows near the hallway, a voice answered softly, calm, mocking close. "Isn't it, though?" Ethan turned, shotgun raised, but there was no one there. The house swallowed the echo of his breath, leaving only the faint sound of laughter, faint, distant, and unmistakably Ryan's, bleeding through the walls. Ethan's hands trembled as the last echoes of laughter faded into the cold stillness of the house. The video replayed in his head over and over, the image of himself sealing the freezer, standing beside Ryan like they were partners in some monstrous act. He wanted to believe it was fake, doctored, impossible. But the image had been too sharp, too real. He backed away from the table, his breath ragged. "No," he whispered. I couldn't." His mind raced through the night. Lila disappeared. He remembered coming home late, a blur of anger and exhaustion, a half-empty bottle of whiskey on the counter. After that, nothing, just darkness. He pressed his palms to his temples, trying to force the memories back, but all he got were fragments. Marissa crying, Ryan's voice on the phone, a loud crash, then silence. The door behind him creaked. Ethan spun, shotgun raised, but it was Marissa, her face pale and eyes hollow from tears. She had come back. "Ethan," she whispered, stepping inside. "What did you find?" He stared at her. "You knew, didn't you?" "No, what?" He shoved the phone toward her. This video." Marissa froze. When she saw the image on the screen, her lips parted, but no sound came out. "Oh my God, tell me it's fake," Ethan demanded. "Tell me he made it up." She didn't answer right away. Her silence stretched until the only sound was the quiet hum of the heater. "Ethan," she said finally, "that night, you were drinking. You came home angry. I don't remember hurting her." "You didn't," she said quickly. "But you argued with Ryan. I heard you shouting. You said you weren't fit to be a father, that Lila was scared of you. Then you left the house. I thought you wanted to cool off." Ethan's stomach sank. "And then I called him." Her voice broke. "I wanted him to calm you down, to stop you from doing something stupid. But when he came, he didn't help. He said he could fix everything. I didn't know what he meant." He stared at her, disbelief etched into every line of his face. "You called him here?" Tears welled in her eyes. "Ethan, I was scared. You were out of control. He told me he could make you realize what you'd done. You didn't think he'd lock our daughter in a freezer." Ethan's voice thundered through the house, sharp and raw. "You handed him the key, Marissa." She covered her face, sobbing. "I never wanted this. He promised she'd be fine, that it was just a scare, that it would make you pay attention again." Ethan turned away, his chest heaving. The room spun. "You both used me," he whispered. "He wanted my family, and you gave it to him." Marissa stepped closer, desperate. "No, Ethan. I love you. I was stupid. I believed him. He said you'd hit her." He cut her off with a glare, so cold she stopped mid-sentence. "Get out." She froze. "What?" "Leave. Before I do something I can't take back." She hesitated, trembling, then turned and ran toward the door. The slam echoed through the hollow house. Ethan stood alone, staring at the shattered reflection of himself in the dark window. His phone buzzed again. Another message. "Ryan, she finally told you. Took her long enough." Then another. "Ryan, meet me where it all started. Bring the gun. Let's finish this." The basement. Ethan's hands shook, but his resolve hardened. He loaded 2 shells into the shotgun and walked toward the stairs. Each step creaked like a heartbeat counting down. The basement door was ajar again, the faint chill seeping through. He descended slowly, the flashlight beam slicing through the darkness. The freezer stood open, the frost glinting under the light. But something was different. Writing on the wall, scrawled in black paint. "I save her from you." Ethan's pulse pounded. "Where are you, Ryan?" he growled. From the shadows, a low chuckle. "You finally remembered, didn't you?" Ethan turned sharply, the beam catching movement behind the pillars. Ryan stepped forward, hood down, face pale, eyes gleaming with manic calm. "You're not real," Ethan whispered. "You're a ghost." Ryan smiled faintly. "Maybe. Or maybe I'm what's left of you. The part you buried that night when you screamed at her, when you hit the wall so hard you scared her into hiding. I just helped her stay hidden." "Shut up." Ethan raised the gun. "You're lying." Ryan took a step closer, unfazed. "Then pull the trigger, brother. But before you do, tell me, why were your fingerprints on the freezer tape?" The room spun. Ethan's vision blurred. "No." Ryan tilted his head. "You helped me, remember? You passed out halfway through. I finished the job. But it was your idea to teach her a lesson." Ethan's finger trembled on the trigger. The world around him felt unreal, twisting in on itself. Could it be true? His own memory. Gone? Rewritten? Ryan grinned. "You made me. Everything I am is because of you." Ethan's scream echoed through the basement as he pulled the trigger. The blast lit up the darkness, followed by silence. When the echo faded, only the hum of the freezer remained. The smoke cleared slowly, revealing nothing. No Ryan, no body, just the words on the wall, still wet, gleaming in the beam of the flashlight. "You can't kill what's already inside you." Ethan staggered back, the shotgun slipping from his hands. His mind fractured between fear and madness. Somewhere above him, a door creaked open, soft, deliberate. And then, faintly, from the shadows behind him, came the sound of footsteps descending again. Ethan spun around, the flashlight jerking wildly across the basement. The footsteps kept coming, slow, steady, deliberate. The air felt colder with each echo. He raised the shotgun, hands trembling, eyes darting between the pillars and the freezer. "Ryan," he shouted, "show yourself." But no one answered. The footsteps stopped halfway down the stairs. For a moment, all he could hear was the hum of the freezer, that low mechanical growl that seemed to vibrate inside his skull. Then a faint click, like metal against metal. Ethan turned the flashlight toward the stairs. A shape moved, someone descending one step at a time. "Stay where you are," Ethan yelled. The figure paused, caught in the dim beam. It wasn't Ryan. It was Detective Halloran. "Ethan," he barked, raising a hand. "Put the gun down." Ethan froze, confusion cutting through the haze of fear. "What are you doing here?" Halloran stepped fully into the light, his face tight, voice controlled. "We tracked your brother's phone signal to this address. We thought he might come back." Ethan's eyes flicked to the freezer. "He was here," he said quietly. "He's been watching me, playing with me." Halloran looked around the room, flashlight sweeping over the frost-covered walls. "You sure about that?" Ethan nodded. "I heard him. I saw him. He's been in this house." Halloran crouched near the freezer, brushing frost from the edge. "We didn't find any prints earlier, and we've been watching your property since last night. No one's been in or out." Ethan's grip tightened on the shotgun. "That's not possible." Halloran stood, meeting his eyes. "Ethan, when's the last time you actually saw your brother? Not on camera. In person." The question hit him like a punch. Ethan's mind scrambled backward, days, weeks. The last time had been before Lila vanished. A brief argument in the driveway. Ryan's last words echoing in his head. "You'll regret this." Ethan started, but his throat closed. Halloran's tone softened. "We pulled the footage again. The timestamp on that clip, your brother in the hallway, it was from 2 years ago. The camera's internal clock was never reset." Ethan blinked, the world tilting around him. No, that can't be. I saw him. He called me." Halloran shook his head. "Ryan Cole died last year, Ethan. Car accident. We have the report. Your wife identified the body." Ethan stumbled back a step, his breath catching. The words didn't make sense. You're lying. I wish I was, Halloran said quietly. But we confirmed it. Whatever's happening here, whatever you've been seeing, it isn't him. The basement felt smaller suddenly, the walls closing in. Ethan pressed a hand to his head, the flashlight beam trembling in his grip. He called me, he whispered. He sent messages. He knew things only he could know. Halloran stepped closer, careful. You've been under immense stress. Your mind could be... Stop, Ethan snapped. Don't talk to me like I'm crazy. The detective sighed. Ethan, look at the wall. Ethan turned. The writing. You can't kill what's already inside you. Dripped faintly, black against the gray concrete. But the smell hit him then. Paint thinner, fresh and sharp. The brush sat on the workbench beside him. His stomach twisted. He stumbled toward it, hands shaking. His fingerprints were smeared across the handle. Halloran's voice was calm, but steady. You've been losing time, haven't you? The drinking, the stress, it's all catching up. You might be seeing things that aren't there. Ethan's pulse raced. He shook his head violently. No, he's real. He's doing this. But as he looked around, everything blurred. The freezer, the walls, the dark corners. A memory flickered. His own voice shouting. His own hands pulling the tape across the lid. Lila's faint cries. He staggered back, clutching the edge of the freezer. No, he whispered. I didn't. I couldn't. Halloran took another step forward. Ethan, put the gun down. We'll get you help. Ethan's eyes burned. You think I did this? You think I hurt her? Halloran's hand hovered near his holster. I think you need to remember what really happened. Ethan's breathing came fast and shallow. He turned toward the freezer again. His reflection stared back at him in the metal lid. Hollow eyes, trembling lips, a face he barely recognized. He's not gone, he murmured. He's still here. Halloran frowned. Ethan, the lights flickered. A cold gust swept through the basement, slamming the door upstairs. The sound echoed like thunder. Halloran spun toward it, hand on his gun. What the hell? Then the basement light blew out completely. Darkness swallowed them. In that suffocating black, Ethan heard it again, the laugh. Soft, low, and impossibly close. Did you miss me, brother? Halloran shouted. Who's there? But Ethan didn't move. His hands tightened on the shotgun. The sound of Ryan's voice wrapped around him, almost tender. Finish what we started. The air turned colder. The hum of the freezer deepened, like it was alive. And in that moment, Ethan realized something far worse than madness. He wasn't sure if the voice was real, or if it had always been his own. The dark pressed in like a living thing. Ethan couldn't tell if his eyes were open or closed. The basement was swallowed in shadow. Only the hum of the freezer remained, a steady mechanical heartbeat that filled the silence. Somewhere in the dark, Halloran's voice broke through, low and tense. Ethan, talk to me. Where's the flashlight? Ethan didn't answer. His pulse thundered in his ears, drowning out everything else. The echo of Ryan's voice still lingered. Finish what we started. His breath came shallow, uneven. He's here, he whispered. You heard him, didn't you? Halloran's beam finally flicked on. The light sliced through the dark, catching Ethan's face, pale, drenched in sweat, eyes wide with confusion and fear. No one's here but us, the detective said firmly. You're hearing your own thoughts. We need to get you out of this house. But Ethan's gaze was locked on the far wall. The words, you can't kill what's already inside you, seemed to shimmer under the flashlight's glow, letters still wet, dripping like fresh wounds. Halloran moved closer. Ethan put the gun down. Ethan clutched it tighter. He's been here, Halloran. He knows things no one else could know. The detective took a careful step forward. Then tell me, Ethan, what is it he knows? Ethan hesitated, his eyes darting back to the freezer. The memories came in flashes. Shouting, Lila crying, the bottle smashing on the floor, his own voice roaring words he couldn't even remember now. Then Ryan's hand on his shoulder, saying something like, I'll fix it. He swallowed hard. That night we fought. Ryan came over. He said I was a bad father. That Lila was scared of me. I told him to get out. Then everything went black. Halloran nodded slowly. And when you woke up? I was in my truck, Ethan said, voice cracking. I thought I just passed out. But Lila was gone. I called Ryan, over and over, but he never picked up. Because he was dead, Halloran said softly. The crash happened that night. Ethan blinked. No, he called me after that. He sent me messages. Halloran reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a folded sheet of paper. We traced the texts. Every message you got came from a prepaid number. One registered under your name, paid with your card. The calls, too. They came from your own phone. Ethan's throat tightened. That's not possible. It is, Halloran said gently. You've been answering yourself, Ethan. The gun trembled in his hand. No, you don't understand. He was real. He talked to me. Your mind needed him to be real, Halloran said. Because if he wasn't, that means you did it. That means you taped that freezer shut. That you hurt her. Ethan's body shook as the truth clawed at him. He turned toward the freezer, its lid still half open. He could almost see Lila inside again, pale, still frozen. He dropped to his knees. I didn't mean to hurt her, he whispered. Halloran lowered his gun slowly. Then tell me what happened. The words spilled out in broken pieces. I came home drunk. She was crying. She dropped something, a glass or a plate. I don't remember. I yelled. She ran downstairs. I followed. Ryan was in my head, telling me I needed to teach her a lesson, that she needed to listen. But he wasn't there, was he? His voice cracked, and a tear slipped down his cheek. He was just me. Halloran said nothing. Ethan wiped his face, trembling. I taped it shut because I thought I was proving something, showing her how dangerous it was to hide in there. I left for a minute to scare her. But then, I passed out. And when I woke up, she was gone. He looked up, eyes hollow. She almost died because of me. Halloran exhaled slowly. You didn't mean to kill her, Ethan. But you need to face what happened. Ethan nodded weakly, his voice barely a whisper. And Ryan? Halloran crouched down, his flashlight steady. Ryan wasn't your enemy, Ethan. He was the part of you you couldn't look at. The anger, the guilt, the voice you gave your mistakes so you wouldn't have to carry them. The weight of it all hit Ethan at once. He dropped the gun, the clatter echoing through the basement. The sound broke whatever thin thread had been holding him together. He sank to the floor, shoulders shaking. I thought I was saving her, he sobbed. All this time, I thought I was protecting her. Halloran stepped closer, resting a hand on his shoulder. You can still save her, Ethan. Tell the truth. Let end. Ethan lifted his eyes toward the camera above them, still blinking, still recording. His reflection shimmered faintly in the lens. For the first time, he saw himself clearly. Not a monster, not a ghost, but a man crushed under the weight of his own sins. He looked back at Halloran, tears streaking down his face. Turn it off, he whispered. I don't want to see anymore. But the detective shook his head. No, Ethan. The world needs to see this. It's the only way she'll ever be free. Ethan nodded slowly, eyes hollow. Then let them see what I've done. The red light on the camera blinked once more, steady and unblinking, as Ethan's confession hung heavy in the freezing air, the truth finally surfacing after being buried in darkness for far too long. Snow drifted down in slow spirals outside the basement window, glowing faintly in the pale dawn light. The world above was quiet, too quiet, as if it were holding its breath. Ethan sat slumped against the cold wall, wrists cuffed, eyes hollow and red from sleepless hours. The police had come just before sunrise. Halloran had made the call himself. Now the basement, once the heart of his home, was sealed off with yellow tape. Officers moved carefully through it, their footsteps echoing across the concrete. Cameras flashed. Every shutter click sounded like a small execution. Lila was safe upstairs in the hospital wing now, under observation, unaware of what had truly happened. Halloran had promised Ethan that when she woke fully, she'd only be told that her father needed to get better. But Ethan knew the truth. He wasn't going to get better. Some things couldn't thaw. Halloran stood near the freezer, staring at it in silence. The frost along the rim had melted, dripping onto the floor like slow tears. He turned toward Ethan, his voice low. They'll want a full statement before you're transferred. Ethan gave a faint, hollow smile. Haven't I said enough? Halloran studied him. You told the truth. That matters. Ethan's gaze drifted toward the corner where the camera still hung, the red light blinking steadily. Truth doesn't matter. Only what's left after it. He tilted his head, his tone distant. Do you know what I remember most? The noise. That freezer humming. I used to think it sounded comforting, like life running in the background. Now it sounds like guilt. Constant. Endless. Halloran didn't respond. He watched as Ethan's eyes flicked to the freezer again, and for a moment, a faint smile touched the man's face. Not from peace, but resignation. Ethan broke the silence. Do you believe in ghosts, detective? Halloran hesitated. No, I believe in consequences. Ethan nodded slowly. Then maybe they're the same thing. A soft beeping from Halloran's radio cut through the air. They're ready for transport, the voice said. He gave a curt reply and clipped it back onto his belt. As Halloran helped him to his feet, Ethan stumbled slightly. His legs felt heavy, like they were carrying more than just his body. Every memory, every scream, every moment he'd tried to bury. They moved toward the stairs. Halfway up, Ethan stopped and turned back. Leave the camera running, he said. Let it record the silence. Maybe that's the only truth that matters anymore. Halloran gave him a long, unreadable look, then nodded. You've got 5 minutes. Ethan stood alone again. The hum of the freezer filled the basement, soft and steady, like a heartbeat refusing to die. He stared at it, at the box that had held everything he feared, everything he'd become. He knelt beside it, running a hand along the lid. I'm sorry, he whispered. You deserved better than me. The words fogged in the cold air, fading before they reached the ceiling. He closed his eyes, and for the first time in years, his mind went still. No Ryan, no voices, no denial, just silence. When Halloran returned, Ethan was standing again, his eyes wet but calm. It's time, the detective said softly. Ethan nodded, letting himself be led up the stairs. Each step felt like walking out of one life and into another. At the top, he paused, turning for one last look. The basement stretched below, quiet, empty, and cold. As he disappeared into the light, the camera blinked once more, capturing the final image. The open freezer, the faint mist of frost curling out, and words etched faintly on the wall beside it, revealed by the rising sun. I loved you, Dad. The officers never saw who wrote it. The handwriting didn't match Lila's or Marissa's. When Halloran shut off the lights, the red camera light stayed on for a moment longer, steady, unblinking, before fading to black. Outside, the snow kept falling, soft and endless, covering everything that had happened in silence. And somewhere deep beneath that silence, the hum of the freezer lingered, eternal, cold, and full of ghosts.